More talk, more fun, more laughs. The Lori Moore Show is underwritten by the Kalamazoo Community Foundation. Love where you live. It's time for the Lori Moore Show. Here is your host, Lori Moore.
WWMT News Channel 3 celebrating 65 years this year. And we're bringing back some of the greats. Joining me now, my buddy, Karl Guenther, radio TV legend here in Kalamazoo. I think everyone's either seen you or heard you at some point, Karl.
I'm very pleased about that prospect, and I am awfully glad that they were there, especially at that time.
Now, you started in the early 60s with Mr. Fetzer.
1963 in the fall. Gordon Anderson, the news director at the time, was expanding the news department, and I was looking for a news job. I had been in sales, made quite a lot of money, but...
That's the dark side, Karl.
That is, yes.
That's not the fun part.
So then I went looking for some place where I could make a decent living at least and enjoy my work. I landed in the news department here at Channel 3 and WKZO Radio.
Yeah. So you were doing both for a while.
Yeah. They were, the two departments were combined. The engineers and the news department were combined, radio and TV. The sales and those other departments were all separate, radio or TV.
One of my favorite stories, and we should tell people that Karl and I worked together.
Yes.
Starting in 1995. We're skipping way ahead, but you and I were partners on the air at WKZO Radio. Some happy times for me.
You're one of the very greatest portions of my career, yes.
It was so great. But you told me so many great stories, and I think you need to share one of them with our viewers today. This was, of course, 1980, an infamous year for Kalamazoo history.
Oh, yes.
You were off covering one thing or another.
Yes.
Tell us the story.
Yes. All right. I had arranged for a photographer to meet me down in St. Joe County, and we were... I don't remember now what it was we were covering, but it was an agriculture story. I was farm director by that time. And we got all through, and he said, "Are you through for the day?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You want a beer?" I said, "Sure." So we went to the American Legion or VFW, and we're sitting there and having a beer. And a couple or three young guys came tromping in. Somebody says, "Who's here from Channel 3? Here, you know, I thought maybe they ran over the company car or something. He says, "You may want to head for home. Your town just blew away."
Yeah, that of course was the tornado.
And they had been working high steel on one of the newer buildings at Western, and they had been called down and ordered to go home and get out of town.
Now, we have to think back. You know, in 80, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have, I mean, you didn't have any of that stuff then.
No.
You know, so you depended on guys at the American Legion.
Yes.
And our human resources director is in the studio. She's having a heart attack that you were drinking beer in the company vehicle, but those were the days, Karl.
Yeah, those were the days.
Those were the days.
And there was nobody from the company there. And I was not planning on wrecking the vehicle, so I didn't figure I had to answer any questions.
No, that's when you could do whatever you wanted. It's a little different now with all the lawyers and the corporate, you know.
Yes.
But anyway, you had some good times. How did the farm broadcasting come into play? What was your interest there?
It was just an automatic. Carl Collin was the original farm services director, started in, I think, 1947, and he retired in 1972, by which time I had 10-year history with the company in the news department, and everybody knew that I had been born and raised in farm country east of Grand Rapids. And so that ended the search for a new farm director right there. It was, "You're it."
Great.
I said, "Really?" He said, "Well, it is a salary job." I said, "Oh, well, how come nobody ever explained it to me like that before?"
That's right. Now we're talking.
Now we're
when there's
talking.
Money involved. Karl, are you glad you were in broadcasting when you were? I mean, you were at really the beginning of TV.
Yeah.
And, you know, well into radio.
It was a bit of a struggle because everything was so new. Now, much of what we were doing then is just awkward because it's so ancient.
Yeah.
But yeah, tape, cassettes, cartridges,
Sure.
reel to reel.
Oh, yeah.
There were even some 78 RPM records still around in the radio section when I got here.
Oh, yeah. Kids don't even know what a record is anymore. It's all digital. Yeah. But give me a razor blade and a reel-to-reel, Carl.
Yeah.
I'm a wizard.
And away we go.
Well, it was such a pleasure working with you, sir.
Oh, my.
And watching you, you know, all those years on Channel 3.
One of the very high points of my whole time, especially my whole time in Kalamazoo, was those very few years that you and I spent together in the morning. Boy, did we click.
Yes, we did. We had a ball. You have to have fun when you're getting up at 3 in the morning, don't you, Carl?
That helps a lot. Yes.
Well, thank you for making it so fun. Karl Guenther.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Our pick of the day, Kalamazoo Beer Week. There are still many events still to be enjoyed all over town. KalamazooBeerWeek.com/events. It's going on now through January 19th. Please enjoy. We'll be back. We're looking for some volunteer opportunities for Martin Luther King Day, and we'll tell you all about that on The Lori Moore Show on your CW7.
You're watching The Lori Moore Show.